So is Bad Bunny's Super Bowl show Trump's Jesse Owens moment? Well, it's a good question. When authoritarian spectacle meets cultural defiance, the stage becomes a global battlefield. In the summer of 1936, Adolf Hitler sat in the VIP box of Berlin's newly constructed Olympiastadion, watching what was meant to be the greatest propaganda spectacle the modern world had ever seen. The Olympic Games were designed to be a coronation. It was proof that Nazi Germany's social order was not only legitimate, but inevitable. The torch relay was invented just for this occasion. The stadium was built as a monument to supremacy. Television cameras captured the games for the first time. The famed Nazi propagandist Leni Riefenstahl filmed every angle for eternity. Everything was choreographed to project power, order, dominance. And then a 22-year-old black sharecropper's son from Alabama walked onto the track. His name was Jesse Owens. And with 4 gold medals, the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the long jump, and the 4x100 relay, he shattered the myth the entire spectacle was built to protect. Owens didn't just win races, he disproved a false and evil ideology. Tonight, nearly 90 years later, another moment like that may unfold on a very different stage, in a very different country, under a very different flag. A 31-year-old Puerto Rican from Vega Baja named Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, known to the world as Bad Bunny, will walk onto the field at Levi's Stadium and headline the Super Bowl halftime show. He will be the first solo Latino artist to do so, and he will perform largely, perhaps exclusively in Spanish. And he will do it as the President of the United States has publicly declared his selection, quote, ridiculous, announced he won't watch, and instead promised to tune into a, quote, all-American counter-event headlined by Kid Rock. This is not a coincidence, and it's not just a culture war skirmish. The comparison between Berlin in 1936 and Santa Clara 2026 is not perfect. No analogy involving Hitler ever is. But the underlying dynamic is real, and it matters. Authoritarian movements understand spectacle. They understand mass rituals. They understand pageantry. They understand how culture, when choreographed correctly, can normalize hierarchy and power. Hitler grasped this intuitively. The Olympics were not just sport, they were theater. They were a visual argument that Germany was strong, unified, superior, and that resistance was futile. So signs reading Jews not welcome were temporarily removed. The regime put on a mask of civility, and the cameras rolled. The Super Bowl plays a similar role in American life, even if we rarely admit it. It isn't just a football game. It is America's annual self-portrait. A ritualized display of national identity wrapped in military flyovers, anthem performances, and the quiet assumption that what happens on the field represents who the country is. And for decades, that story was told in English. Always. Bad Bunny breaks that frame. Not because Latinos have never appeared on that stage. Shakira and Jennifer Lopez co-headed and headlined in 2020. But because this is different. Because Bad Bunny refuses translation. Because he refuses assimilation. Because he brings his audience, his language, and his politics with him. This is the same artist who declined to tour the continental United States out of concern that ICE would target his fans. The same artist who became the first in history to win Grammy Album of the Year for a Spanish-language record. The same artist who opened that acceptance speech with 2 words that landed like a thunderclap. ICE out. Now contrast that with the worldview of Donald Trump. Hitler's fascism rested on genetic superiority. Trump's rests on cultural superiority. Slightly different foundations, but the exact same impulse. Make America Great Again is not a policy platform. It is a civilizational claim. It reassures followers that their culture, their music, their language, their symbols, that's what defines American greatness. That everything else is foreign, suspicious, threatening. This is why Trump didn't just attack immigration policy. He went after culture itself, the Kennedy Center, the arts, the institutions that define who America celebrates. When artists refused to perform under his name, productions canceled, composers withdrew, opera companies left. When art wouldn't bend, Trump threatened to shut the building down. This is not a sideshow. It's the cultural front of the same war. And that is why Bad Bunny matters so much. A Puerto Rican man singing in Spanish on the biggest cultural stage in America is not just an artistic choice. It is a repudiation. It says American culture is not singular, not monolingual, not owned. Which brings us back to Jesse Owens. Owens didn't slow the Nazi machine by a single day. The 1936 Olympics were, in real time, a propaganda success for Hitler. Germany won the most medals that year, and the regime rolled on. Owens returns to a segregated America, where President Roosevelt wouldn't even send him a telegram. Hitler didn't snub me, Owens later said. It was our president who snubbed me. And this is the danger of a beautiful moment. We want to believe representation is victory. That excellence on a stage bends history by itself. It doesn't. Bad Bunny's performance will be powerful. It will matter deeply to millions of Latino families watching together. But it will not stop a single ICE raid. It will not dismantle a single abusive policy. Its meaning will be determined by what comes next. Voting booths, courtrooms, streets, communities, deciding whether the country expands or contracts its definition of itself. And there is one final cruel parallel. After Owens' triumph, he struggled to find work. He raced horses for money. He entered his own reception through the freight elevator because the main one was reserved for white guests. Bad Bunny has already said this may be his only mainland U.S. performance this year. Not because he lacks fans, but because he doesn't want federal agents arresting them in the parking lot. Think about that. The most streamed artist on the planet, a U.S. citizen from a U.S. territory headlining the Super Bowl, then leaving because it's not safe for his people. This is the lie. This is the lie that the spectacle was meant to hide. Jesse Owens destroyed the myth of Aryan supremacy on the track in Berlin. Bad Bunny may do the same to the myth of a monolingual, monocultural America on the field in Santa Clara. But whether this becomes Trump's Jesse Owens moment depends on us. See, the race is won on the stage, but the fight is won everywhere else. Juntos somos más fuertes. Adelante.